This is episode 1 of the Paul Reviews Movies podcast. I have been reviewing movies for a little bit on my primary podcast, which is the Improve and Have Fun podcast. It was a mash of all these different kinds of things that I would stick into this one podcast, but the attempt with this podcast is to kind of break everything up. Movie reviews go in one place. I used to do a DJ mix that goes in another place. This is my journey here. I'm a 40-something-year-old who was born and raised in New York, now a New Jersey native, and my leanings when it comes to movies is comic book movies and sci-fi movies. But honestly, I will watch anything that is a good review, even if it's a foreign film or anything like that. So this week we have Spider-Man Homecoming, the new movie, the new reimagining of Spider-Man after he's had so many movies. But you all know all about all of that. But let's go ahead and get into the review. My reviews always have spoilers, so just please be aware of that. Let's get into it. I'm going to do pros and cons. Pros are that the cast was phenomenal. Tom Holland, Jon Favreau, Michael Keaton, the gentleman who plays Tom Holland's best friend, fantastic in the movie. Really felt invested and sympathized for these characters, empathized with these characters. They were fantastic. The movie itself is charming. It's funny as well. And it's more of a Spider-Man movie than a teen movie, I felt. Flash Thompson was played by not this oversized bully, but more like kind of like a dick kind of character, which I thought was fantastic. I think kind of just made that switch there. I thought that was really cool. The PSAs by Captain America were hilarious, definitely. There were lots of Easter eggs in the movie. If you're a fan of the comics, or even if you're not a fan of the comics, there is always a YouTube video that will explain all the Easter eggs. So the movie had a bunch of them. The one that was the most notable to me was the gentleman who played the principal in Tom Holland's school was a descendant of a character that was in the very first Captain America movie, who was played by the same actor. And you saw that when Tom Holland was sitting in the principal's office, and he had like these pictures, and they were of his relative that once again was in the first Captain America movie. That being one of the many Easter eggs in the film. The Spider-Man theme during the Marvel Studios intro, I love that. It was like the 70s, 60s theme. I really enjoyed that. My final pro is the references to the MCU, the alien invasion, which from the first Avengers movie, which plays a humongous part in terms of the technology that comes from that in this movie. And Avengers Tower, Captain America, the references to Civil War, the movie. I thought that was great, in terms of world building and just keeping everything in the family of the MCU. Now, my cons with the film were, what does Aunt May do exactly? She is just always there. Marissa Tomei is beautiful, kind of like in this MILF kind of way. She looks fantastic. But what does she do? Is she employed? Does she have a job? This is just a question that came to me while I was watching the movie. And Donald Glover was in the film for like a blink of a second. Like if you missed it, you would have missed him. He was just useless in the movie, I thought. The relationship between Parker and Liz was a girl that he had the interest in. And at first it was endearing, but I was really over it by the end of the movie. I was like, oh, are we still here with this relationship? Like, he's not going to get with her. He's never available. I'm surprised she hasn't dumped him or dissed him or just like blew him off already. And this character named Michelle, who we end up finding is Mary Jane, or Michelle Jane, or whatever they call her in this universe, is everywhere where Peter Parker is. Like, what is this? Is this girl like stalking him or something? And I was just like, why is this girl everywhere that he is? There was a lot more CG Spider-Man than there was real Spider-Man. It's very noticeable in the film. I'm not some purist that I need everything to be a real actor, but it comes across with a little bit more weight and a little less floaty when it's like a real person to me. And I like that. That's just me though. And my final con with the movie was the movie lacks a little bit of a fire, a little bit of adrenaline. It was kind of like at this level, and it just had little spikes and dips, but it just kind of stays at one particular level. It doesn't ever go into the white knuckle, like, wow, this is something else kind of level for me. So it lacked a little bit of adrenaline for me, but overall, very enjoyable movie. I'll give this movie a 7.5 out of 10, and I do recommend it. You should definitely go check this movie out. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. You can find a lot of my older movie reviews, and there's a ton of them, on my YouTube channel, and I will put a link for that in the show notes for this episode. This is PaulReviewsMovies.com.